You're nestled in your comfortable bed, wrapped in the gentle embrace of cool sheets and soft darkness. The quiet evening surrounds you like a peaceful cocoon as your breathing slows and your eyelids grow wonderfully heavy. As consciousness drifts away, you're carried back through vast epochs of time, floating past millions of years, until you find yourself in an ancient world of towering trees and endless horizons, awakening in a body of magnificent proportions that moves with the gentle rhythm of giants. The first sensation that reaches your awakening consciousness is warmth, the gentle, penetrating warmth of early morning sunlight, filtering through a canopy of enormous conifers and cycads. The air around you is thick and humid, carrying the rich, green scent of growing things mixed with the earthy aroma of decomposing vegetation. Somewhere in the distance, you can hear the gentle lapping of water against a shoreline, punctuated by the calls of pterosaurs wheeling high overhead. You're resting in a vast clearing beside a meandering river, surrounded by the towering trees of the late Jurassic landscape. Massive Araucaria pines stretch toward the sky like living skyscrapers, their trunks wider than houses and their crowns lost in misty heights. Between them grow giant ferns and cycads, creating a lush understory that filters the morning light into dancing patterns of green and gold. The ground beneath you is soft, with layers of fallen leaves and rich soil, creating a natural carpet that has cushioned your massive form throughout the night. Small flowers, early angiosperms just beginning their evolutionary journey, add splashes of color to the predominantly green landscape, while the air itself seems to shimmer with moisture and the golden dust of countless spores and pollen grains. As awareness returns fully to your being, you begin to comprehend the extraordinary nature of your physical form. You are massive beyond human comprehension, a creature weighing as much as 12 elephants, with a body stretching over 80 feet from nose to tail. Yet despite this enormous bulk, you feel graceful and perfectly balanced, every part of your anatomy designed for a life of gentle magnificence. Your first movement is a slow, deliberate lifting of your head, and immediately you understand the profound difference in your perspective. Your skull sits atop a neck that stretches nearly 30 feet into the air, allowing you to survey your world from a height that no other land animal will ever achieve. The sensation is both thrilling and serene, like being a living watchtower that can observe the landscape for miles in every direction. Your vision from this elevated position reveals a world of stunning beauty and diversity. The river beside you winds through the landscape like a silver ribbon, its banks lined with massive horsetails and primitive willows. In the distance, you can see herds of other dinosaurs moving across the floodplains, some familiar fellow sauropods, others the smaller ornithopods and theropods that share this ancient ecosystem. The gentle morning breeze carries a symphony of scents to your sensitive nostrils. You can distinguish between the resinous aroma of conifers, the sweet fragrance of flowering plants, the earthy richness of decomposing matter, and the fresh, clean smell of flowing water. Each scent tells a story about the environment around you, where food might be found, where water flows cleanest, where other creatures have passed. As you begin the slow process of rising to your full height, you become acutely aware of your 4 massive legs. Each limb is like a living pillar, with feet the size of small cars that distribute your enormous weight across broad padded soles. Your front legs are significantly longer than your rear ones, giving your body a distinctive sloping profile that elevates your shoulders and neck high above your hindquarters. The sensation of standing is unlike anything a smaller creature could experience. Your muscles work in slow, powerful waves, each movement deliberate and measured. Your cardiovascular system pumps blood through an enormous network of vessels, your massive heart beating with the slow, steady rhythm of a creature built for endurance rather than speed. You can feel the blood flowing through the incredible length of your neck, powered by specialized adaptations that allow circulation to reach your elevated brain. Your tail, stretching nearly 50 feet behind you, serves as a crucial counterbalance to your elevated front end. You can feel its weight and length as an extension of your spine, perfectly designed to keep you stable and balanced despite your unusual proportions. When you shift your weight slightly, your tail moves in response, maintaining the equilibrium that allows a creature of your size to function. The tail's massive muscles can be felt working in harmony with your leg muscles to maintain perfect balance. Your first conscious breath as a fully awakened Brachiosaurus fills enormous lungs with the rich, oxygen-laden air of the Jurassic period. The atmosphere contains more oxygen than the modern world, supporting the gigantic life forms that characterize this era. Each breath feels invigorating, filling your massive body with the energy needed to sustain your incredible metabolism. You can feel the air flowing through complex air sacs that extend throughout your body, making your respiratory system remarkably efficient despite your enormous size. From your towering vantage point, you can see the intricate details of the forest canopy that would be invisible to ground-dwelling creatures. Birds, the early descendants of dinosaurs like yourself, flit between the branches, while pterosaurs of various sizes glide on thermals rising from the sun-warmed earth. The view is like standing on a mountain peak, except this peak moves wherever you choose to go. Your sense of smell, while not as acute as that of a predator, is still highly developed and perfectly suited to your herbivorous lifestyle. You can detect the subtle differences between various plant species, identifying which ones are ripe for feeding and which might be toxic or unpalatable. The morning air carries the scents of dozens of different trees and shrubs, each one catalogued by your brain as either potential food or simply part of the aromatic landscape. Your hearing picks up sounds from across great distances, the calls of other sauropods communicating across the landscape, the splash of fish jumping in the river, the rustle of small mammals moving through the undergrowth far below. These sounds create a rich acoustic environment that keeps you informed about the activities of your neighbors and any potential threats or opportunities. Your ears can detect infrasonic calls from other sauropods miles away, vibrations that travel through both air and ground to create a network of long-distance communication. As you fully achieve your standing height, your head rises to nearly 40 feet above the ground, placing you in a realm that belongs to no other terrestrial creature. From this elevation, you can see over the tops of most trees, observing weather patterns developing on the horizon and monitoring the movements of other dinosaur herds across vast distances. The curvature of the Earth itself becomes visible from your elevated perspective, giving you a view that encompasses hundreds of square miles of Jurassic landscape. Your first major decision of the day involves choosing where to begin your morning feeding. Your elevated position allows you to survey the available food sources across a wide area, identifying the most promising groves of conifers and stands of cycads. Your massive size means that you require enormous quantities of vegetation each day, perhaps 400 pounds or more, making the selection of feeding areas a crucial aspect of your survival strategy. The grove of Araucaria pines to your east catches your attention, their high branches laden with nutritious needle clusters that are inaccessible to smaller herbivores. These trees represent premium food sources for a creature of your stature, offering both the quantity and quality of nutrition needed to fuel your massive metabolism. The trees themselves are giants in their own right, some reaching heights of over 200 feet, with trunks 10 feet in diameter. Your approach to the pine grove is a majestic procession that seems to move in slow motion. Each step is deliberate and measured, your enormous feet finding secure purchase on the soft forest floor. Your movement creates a gentle rhythm that seems to harmonize with the natural sounds of the forest. The whisper of wind through leaves, the distant calls of other dinosaurs, and the ever-present murmur of insects and small creatures. As you walk, the ground trembles slightly beneath your feet, creating seismic waves that travel through the earth for considerable distances. These vibrations serve as a form of communication, alerting other large dinosaurs to your presence and movements. You can feel similar vibrations through your feet from other sauropods moving across the landscape, creating a tactile network of information that supplements your other senses. The forest floor beneath your feet is a complex ecosystem in itself. Each step reveals layers of decomposing plant matter, rich soil, and countless small organisms that form the foundation of the forest's food web. Occasionally, your massive feet disturb colonies of insects or small vertebrates, creating feeding opportunities for the various smaller dinosaurs that follow in your wake. As you move through the forest, you become aware of your reflection in occasional pools of standing water. The image that looks back at you is one of serene majesty, a creature perfectly adapted to its environment, moving with the quiet confidence that comes from being one of nature's most successful designs. Your long neck curves gracefully as you walk, while your massive body maintains perfect balance despite its unusual proportions. The flora around you represents some of the most primitive and ancient plant families on Earth. Giant tree ferns unfurl their fronds like living umbrellas, while cycads display their crown-like arrangements of stiff leaves. Conifers of various species create a complex canopy structure, with different species occupying different height zones and ecological niches. The absence of grasses means that the forest floor is dominated by ferns, mosses, and the occasional flowering plant. Your approach to the pine grove disturbs a flock of pterosaurs that have been roosting in the upper branches. They take flight with graceful wing beats, circling overhead before settling in trees further away. From your elevated perspective, you can observe their flight patterns and appreciate the elegant efficiency of their aerial adaptations. Some are small, barely larger than modern birds, while others have wingspans that rival small aircraft. The air currents around the grove create interesting patterns that you can detect through subtle changes in temperature and humidity against your skin. These atmospheric movements are generated by the interaction between the forest canopy and the warming morning air, creating a complex, three-dimensional environment that extends far above the ground level where most creatures live. Reaching the edge of the pine grove, you pause to assess the feeding opportunities before you. Your long neck allows you to sample branches at various heights without moving your massive body, an energy-efficient feeding strategy that maximizes nutrition while minimizing effort. You can reach foliage from ground level up to heights of nearly 50 feet, giving you access to resources unavailable to any other herbivore. Your feeding technique is a marvel of precision and efficiency. Despite your enormous size, you can delicately select individual branches and needle clusters, stripping away the nutritious parts while leaving the structural elements of the tree largely intact. This selective feeding allows the trees to continue growing and producing food, creating a sustainable relationship between predator and plant. Your first bite involves carefully grasping a cluster of pine needles with your small, spatulate teeth. These teeth are perfectly designed for stripping vegetation rather than chewing, as most of your digestion will occur in your massive stomach system. The needles have a sharp, resinous taste that your palate recognizes as nutritious and satisfying. The texture is fibrous and challenging, but your powerful throat muscles are well adapted to processing such tough plant material. The act of feeding is meditative and peaceful, involving slow, deliberate movements of your neck as you work your way through the available foliage. Your massive throat muscles work to swallow large quantities of vegetation, sending the plant matter down your long esophagus toward your complex digestive system. The process creates gentle internal sounds that harmonize with your steady breathing and heartbeat. Your digestive system is a marvel of evolutionary engineering, designed to extract maximum nutrition from fibrous plant material. Your stomach contains several chambers where vegetation is broken down by powerful acids and beneficial bacteria, while your intestines stretch for hundreds of feet through your massive torso. This system allows you to thrive on a diet that would be indigestible to smaller creatures. The fermentation process in your gut generates considerable heat, which helps maintain your body temperature during cooler periods. As you feed, you become aware of other sounds in the grove. The gentle rustling that indicates the presence of smaller herbivorous dinosaurs feeding on ground-level vegetation. These creatures pose no competition for your high-altitude food sources, creating a peaceful coexistence that characterizes much of the Jurassic ecosystem. A family of small Brachiosaurus moves through the understory, their quick movements and alert postures contrasting sharply with your serene deliberation. Your feeding session attracts the attention of various small creatures that benefit from your presence. Insects disturbed by your movements provide food for insectivorous dinosaurs and early mammals, while fallen needles and small branches create microhabitats for decomposers and soil organisms. Your role as an ecosystem engineer extends far beyond your direct feeding activities. The morning sun continues to climb, warming the air and causing the forest to come fully alive around you. The increasing temperature triggers the release of more plant fragrances, creating an olfactory symphony that provides detailed information about the surrounding vegetation. You can detect the readiness of different fruits, the health of various trees, and even the presence of plant diseases or pest infestations through subtle changes in scent. Your feeding is interrupted by the arrival of another Brachiosaurus, slightly smaller than yourself, who approaches the grove from the opposite direction. This encounter requires careful social navigation, as two creatures of your size cannot feed in the same area without coordination. The newcomer pauses at a respectful distance, waiting for some indication of your intentions. The other Brachiosaurus is a female, somewhat younger than yourself, with slightly different proportions that indicate she may be from a different population or subspecies. Her approach is cautious but confident, suggesting she has experience in these social negotiations. Her presence adds a new dimension to the morning feeding session, requiring you to consider not just your own needs, but the complex social dynamics that govern interactions between giants. Your response is a low, rumbling vocalization that carries across the landscape like distant thunder. This sound is produced deep in your chest and transmitted through your long neck, creating a complex acoustic signal that conveys information about your identity, health, and current mood. The sound has multiple harmonic components, with some frequencies traveling through the air while others propagate through the ground as vibrations. The other Brachiosaurus responds with a similar call, and a brief conversation ensues in the subsonic language of giants. The exchange includes information about territorial boundaries, feeding intentions, and social status. The conversation is nuanced and sophisticated, demonstrating the complex communication abilities that allow creatures of your size to coexist peacefully despite their enormous resource requirements. The negotiation results in an amicable sharing of the feeding area, with each of you taking different sections of the grove to avoid interference. This cooperation demonstrates the sophisticated social behaviors that allow multiple large herbivores to coexist in the same environment. Your respective feeding positions are chosen to maximize efficiency while maintaining safe distances between your massive forms. The presence of another of your kind adds a new dimension to the feeding experience. You can observe their feeding techniques and compare them to your own, noting subtle differences in neck positioning and branch selection. This social learning is an important aspect of sauropod behavior, allowing individuals to refine their skills through observation and imitation. You notice that she favors slightly younger growth at the branch tips, while you prefer the more mature needles closer to the trunk. Your companion's feeding creates additional sounds and movement in the grove, adding to the complexity of the acoustic environment. The combined impact of two massive herbivores creates a gentle disturbance that ripples through the local ecosystem, attracting scavengers and opportunistic feeders, while causing more timid creatures to maintain their distance. The feeding session becomes a leisurely social event, with both of you taking time to communicate through gentle vocalizations and subtle body language. These interactions serve multiple purposes beyond simple coordination, including the establishment of social bonds that may prove important in future encounters. The exchange of information about distant feeding areas and seasonal changes benefits both participants. As your feeding progresses, you notice changes in the behavior of the smaller creatures around you. Birds begin to gather in nearby trees, attracted by the insects and small animals disturbed by your activities. Several species of early mammals emerge from their hiding places to collect seeds and plant fragments, knocked loose by your feeding. This creates a complex web of interactions centered around your massive presence. The morning sun climbs higher as your feeding session continues, warming the air and increasing the humidity of the forest environment. You can feel the heat beginning to build on your massive form, and you know that managing your body temperature will become increasingly important as the day progresses. Your large size gives you advantages in retaining heat during cool periods, but it also makes cooling more challenging during the warmer parts of the day. Your feeding strategy adapts to the changing conditions by focusing on areas where the canopy provides more shade. Your elevated feeding position allows you to position yourself to take advantage of the cooling effects of upper-level air circulation, while continuing to access high-quality food sources. The interplay between feeding efficiency and thermal management becomes an ongoing consideration that influences your every movement. As your morning hunger begins to be satisfied, you take time to observe the broader patterns of activity in the surrounding forest. The ecosystem is coming fully alive as the day progresses, with various species engaging in their own feeding and social behaviors. From your towering vantage point, you can see the intricate interactions that characterize this complex biological community. A family group of smaller sauropods, perhaps Camarasaurus, moves through a distant clearing, their feeding creating a disturbance that attracts the attention of several theropod predators. However, the predators maintain a respectful distance, as even smaller sauropods represent formidable opponents when they act together in defense of their young. The dynamics of predator-prey relationships play out across the landscape in a complex dance of approach and avoidance. Your attention is drawn to movement in the river below, where several large fish break the surface in pursuit of flying insects. The aquatic ecosystem is as rich and diverse as the terrestrial one, supporting everything from small fish to massive marine reptiles that occasionally venture into the river system from the nearby ocean. You can see the distinctive dorsal fins of large marine crocodiles patrolling the deeper waters. The canopy above you hosts its own complex community of aerial creatures. Pterosaurs of various sizes navigate between the branches with remarkable agility, while early birds experiment with flight patterns that will eventually lead to the diverse avian fauna of later periods. The vertical dimension of the forest creates numerous distinct ecological zones, each with its own specialized inhabitants. Your companion completes her feeding and begins to move toward the river, her departure marked by a series of gentle calls that seem to invite you to follow. This social signaling represents another aspect of sauropod behavior, as individuals often coordinate their movements to take advantage of shared knowledge about resources and safe travel routes. The completion of your morning feeding marks the beginning of a different phase of your daily routine. With your immediate nutritional needs satisfied, you can focus on other important activities such as social interaction, territory monitoring, and thermoregulation. Your massive size means that feeding occupies only a portion of your day, unlike smaller animals that must feed almost constantly to meet their metabolic needs. Your departure from the pine grove is as measured and deliberate as your arrival, though now you carry the additional weight of the vegetation you've consumed. Your digestive system has already begun processing the plant material, starting the complex biochemical processes that will extract nutrients and energy from the fibrous matter. You can feel the gentle warmth of fermentation beginning in your massive gut. the path you choose leads toward the river, where you know cooling water and different feeding opportunities await. Your route takes you through a section of forest dominated by tree ferns and cycads, creating a prehistoric landscape that seems almost alien compared to modern environments. The diversity of plant life in this ecosystem is extraordinary, with new species continuing to evolve and adapt to the changing conditions of the Jurassic period. Your passage through the fern forest creates a corridor of disturbance that quickly fills with opportunistic creatures seeking to exploit the resources you've made available. Small mammals scurry through the underbrush, gathering seeds and insects disturbed by your movement, while various dinosaurs follow at safe distances to take advantage of the feeding opportunities your presence creates. The fern forest represents one of the most ancient plant communities on Earth, with some species virtually unchanged since the Carboniferous period, hundreds of millions of years earlier. The massive tree ferns create a canopy 30 to 40 feet above the ground, their fronds forming intricate patterns that filter the sunlight into a green twilight. The humidity under this canopy is almost tropical, creating an environment that supports numerous species of small vertebrates and invertebrates. Your movement through this environment requires careful navigation, as the dense growth of ferns and their fallen fronds can create obstacles even for a creature of your size. Your front feet test each step carefully, ensuring stable footing on the soft, spongy forest floor. The decomposing plant matter creates a rich organic layer that supports countless small organisms, each playing their role in the complex ecosystem. The acoustic environment of the fern forest is different from the pine grove, with sounds being muffled and absorbed by the dense vegetation. Your footsteps create softer, more organic sounds as your feet compress the thick layer of decomposing fronds. The calls of smaller creatures echo strangely in this space, creating an almost mystical atmosphere that seems to transport you back to the very dawn of terrestrial life. As you move through the fern forest, you encounter other plant communities that represent different evolutionary experiments in terrestrial vegetation. Primitive conifers of species long extinct mix with early flowering plants that are still working out the basic strategies that will eventually dominate terrestrial ecosystems. Each plant community supports its own specialized fauna, creating a mosaic of interconnected habitats. The approach to the river requires navigating increasingly soft and muddy ground as you near the water's edge. Your massive feet sink several inches into the saturated soil with each step, leaving impressions that will persist long after your passage. These tracks become part of the geological record, preserving evidence of your existence for paleontologists to discover millions of years in the future. The transition from forest to riverbank reveals an entirely different aspect of the Jurassic ecosystem. Here, the vegetation is adapted to periodic flooding and higher moisture levels, creating a lush wetland environment that supports species found nowhere else in the landscape. Massive horsetails, some reaching heights of 30 feet, line the water's edge like primitive cathedral columns. The riverbank itself is a busy habitat teeming with life adapted to the interface between terrestrial and aquatic environments. Crocodilians of various sizes bask in the morning sun, their armored bodies perfectly designed for a life spent both in water and on land. Some of these crocodiles are enormous, reaching lengths that rival modern saltwater crocodiles, while others are smaller, more agile species adapted for different ecological niches. Various water birds probe the shallows for fish and invertebrates, their behavior patterns already showing the basic feeding strategies that will characterize aquatic birds throughout Earth's history. Some species wade through the shallows on long legs, while others dive from the surface to pursue prey beneath the water. Your approach causes some disturbance among these creatures, but most simply move to safer distances, rather than fleeing entirely. The water of the river is warm and slightly murky, rich with nutrients washed down from the inland forests and mountains. The color speaks of a healthy aquatic ecosystem, with dissolved organic matter supporting complex food webs that extend from microscopic organisms to the massive fish that patrol the deeper channels. Occasionally, you can see the swirls and disturbances that indicate the presence of large aquatic predators. As you lower your massive head to drink, you can taste the complex mixture of minerals and organic compounds that make this water a vital resource for the entire ecosystem. The water has a clean, fresh taste, despite its murky appearance, with subtle flavors that speak of its journey through pristine forests and untouched geological formations. Your drinking creates gentle waves that ripple outward from the point of contact, announcing your presence to aquatic creatures throughout the area. The sensation of cool water flowing down your long throat is deeply satisfying, helping to regulate your body temperature while replenishing the fluids lost through your massive metabolic processes. You drink slowly and deliberately, taking time to savor both the physical and psychological benefits of this essential activity. The water's journey down your enormous neck can be felt as a cool sensation that gradually warms as it reaches your core body temperature. While drinking, you become aware of movement in the deeper parts of the river. Large shapes move beneath the surface, possibly leadsichthys or other giant fish that inhabit these ancient waterways. These aquatic giants are impressive in their own right, though they remain largely hidden from terrestrial observation, except for occasional glimpses when they surface to feed or breathe. Some of these fish reach lengths comparable to modern whales, representing the largest bony fish in Earth's history. Your drinking session is observed by various smaller creatures that maintain safe distances while taking advantage of the disturbance you create. Small fish gather near the shoreline to feed on particles stirred up by your activities, while waterbirds position themselves to catch any prey items that your presence might flush from their hiding places. This creates a complex web of interactions centered around your simple act of drinking. The completion of your drinking marks another transition in your daily routine. With both food and water secured, you can focus on the social and territorial aspects of your existence. Your elevated position allows you to scan the horizon for signs of other Brachiosaurus herds, as well as potential threats or opportunities that might require your attention. Your survey of the surrounding landscape reveals several interesting developments. A group of large theropods, possibly Allosaurus, is moving through a distant valley, their presence marked by the agitated behavior of herbivorous dinosaurs in their vicinity. While these predators pose little direct threat to a healthy adult of your size, their presence affects the overall dynamics of the ecosystem and influences the behavior patterns of potential prey species. The theropods move with the fluid grace of apex predators, their powerful legs carrying them across the landscape with surprising speed for creatures of their size. From your elevated position, you can observe their hunting strategies and the complex ways in which their presence influences the behavior of other species. Herds of smaller herbivores shift their positions and movement patterns in response to the predator's approach, creating a dynamic landscape of interaction and avoidance. In another direction, you observe a gathering of various sauropod species around a distant lake. Such multi-species aggregations are common during certain seasons when favorable feeding conditions and water availability draw large numbers of herbivores to specific areas. These gatherings serve important social functions while also creating opportunities for interspecies learning and genetic exchange. The lake in the distance appears to be a substantial body of water, probably fed by multiple river systems and supporting its own complex ecosystem. Even from this distance, you can see the distinctive shapes of various sauropod species around its shores, their different body proportions and feeding strategies allowing them to coexist in the same area without direct competition. Your decision to investigate the sauropod gathering involves a considerable journey across varied terrain, providing opportunities to observe and interact with many different aspects of the Jurassic ecosystem. Your route takes you through forests, across open meadows, and along the edges of wetland areas, each environment offering its own unique characteristics and inhabitants. The journey begins with your passage through a section of mixed forest where conifers and ferns create a complex, multi-layered canopy. This environment supports a diverse community of smaller dinosaurs, early mammals, and various invertebrates, each adapted to specific niches within the vertical structure of the forest. Your passage creates disturbances at multiple levels, from ground-dwelling creatures that scramble out of your path to canopy species that react to the vibrations transmitted through the trees. As you move through the forest, you encounter evidence of other large sauropods who have passed this way before. Deep footprints in soft ground, broken branches at feeding height, and distinctive browse lines on trees all tell the story of previous giants who have traveled these same routes. This evidence creates a sense of connection with others of your kind, even when they're not physically present. The forest sections of your journey provide opportunities for additional feeding on tree species not available near your morning feeding area. You sample various conifers, primitive flowering plants, and fern species, adding diversity to your diet while maintaining the energy levels needed for your long-distance travel. Each plant species offers different nutritional profiles and flavors, creating a complex dietary experience that satisfies both nutritional and sensory needs. Your elevated feeding position allows you to access parts of plants that ground-dwelling herbivores cannot reach, while your selective feeding style ensures that you don't damage the trees beyond their ability to recover. This creates a sustainable relationship between you and the forest ecosystem, allowing both to thrive over long periods of time. Emerging from the forest, you enter a landscape of open meadows that stretch for miles across gentle rolling hills. These grasslands are dominated not by true grasses, which have not yet evolved, but by various ferns, primitive sedges, and low-growing conifers that create a carpet of vegetation across the landscape. The openness provides dramatic views of distant mountains and other geographical features that define your territory. Your progress across open meadows offers different perspectives on the landscape and its inhabitants. Without the visual barriers created by forest vegetation, you can observe the behavior of various dinosaur species across vast distances. Herds of ornithopods graze peacefully in distant areas, while smaller theropods hunt along the edges of these gatherings, seeking opportunities to target young, old, or injured individuals. The open landscape also reveals the complex geological features that shape this ancient world. Distant volcanic peaks emit occasional plumes of smoke and ash, reminders of the active geological processes that are constantly reshaping the planet. River systems create green corridors across the otherwise brownish landscape, supporting riparian forests that serve as wildlife corridors connecting different habitats. Your movement across the meadows attracts the attention of various scavenging species that follow large herbivores in hopes of benefiting from the insects and small animals disturbed by their passage. Small theropods maintain respectful distances while opportunistically feeding on the creatures flushed from hiding by your massive feet. This creates a mobile ecosystem that travels with you across the landscape. The meadow environment supports its own specialized plant and animal communities, adapted to more open conditions and greater exposure to weather variations. Without the buffering effects of forest canopy, these species must deal with wider temperature ranges, more intense sunlight, and greater wind exposure. Many have evolved adaptations, such as waxy leaves, underground storage organs, and behavioral strategies for coping with environmental extremes. As you cross the meadows, you encounter several dry creek beds that speak to the seasonal nature of water flow in this landscape. During wet seasons, these channels carry substantial amounts of water, but now they serve as natural highways for the movement of various species across the landscape. The The banks of these dry channels support specialized plant communities adapted to periodic flooding and extended dry periods. Your route takes you past several isolated groves of trees that serve as islands of forest habitat within the grassland environment. These groves support species that require the shelter and specialized conditions provided by trees, while also serving as stopping points for traveling animals that need shade and protection during their journeys across open country. The transition from meadows to wetland areas marks another change in the ecological character of your journey. Here, the landscape becomes increasingly dominated by water features, marshes, swamps, and seasonal ponds that support entirely different communities of plants and animals. The increased moisture creates a lusher, greener environment that contrasts sharply with the more arid meadows you've just crossed. The wetland areas provide glimpses into yet another aspect of Jurassic biodiversity. Aquatic and semi-aquatic reptiles inhabit these environments, while specialized plant communities adapted to periodic flooding create unique ecological niches. Your passage through these areas creates substantial disturbance in the saturated soils, temporarily altering drainage patterns and creating new microhabitats for smaller organisms. Large crocodilians patrol the deeper channels, while various species of aquatic dinosaurs feed on submerged vegetation and small fish. The diversity of life in these wetland environments rivals that of the forests, though many of the species are specialized for aquatic or semi-aquatic lifestyles. Your elevated position allows you to observe activities both above and below the water surface. The plant communities in the wetlands include species found nowhere else in the landscape: aquatic ferns, primitive water lilies, and various sedges and rushes that form dense stands along the water's edge. Many of these plants have developed specialized adaptations for dealing with fluctuating water levels, including floating leaves, underwater root systems, and the ability to survive periods of both flooding and drought. As you travel, you maintain awareness of the social signals being transmitted across the landscape by other sauropods. Low-frequency vocalizations carry for miles through the dense air, creating a network of communication that keeps distant herds informed about each other's locations, movements, and general welfare. Your own periodic calls contribute to this network, announcing your presence and intentions to any other giants within acoustic range. The acoustic landscape of the Jurassic is dominated by these long-distance communications between sauropods, creating a constant background of infrasonic rumbles that can be felt through the ground as well as heard through the air. This communication network serves multiple functions, including territory marking, mate location, predator warnings, and coordination of group movements. Your calls carry information about your identity, health status, reproductive condition, and current activities. Other sauropods can interpret these signals to determine whether you represent a potential threat, a possible mate, or simply a fellow traveler moving through the landscape. The complexity of these vocalizations demonstrates the sophisticated social behaviors that have evolved among giants. The journey toward the sauropod gathering takes several hours, during which the sun continues its arc across the sky and the day grows progressively warmer. Your massive body begins to accumulate heat from both solar radiation and metabolic processes, making thermal regulation an increasingly important consideration in your movement patterns and behavior choices. Your approach to areas with better shade becomes more deliberate as the day progresses, and you take advantage of opportunities to position yourself where air circulation can provide cooling effects. Your large size creates its own microclimate, with air currents flowing around your massive form in patterns that can be manipulated to enhance comfort during warm periods. The accumulated heat in your body creates thermal gradients that you can detect through internal sensations, helping you monitor your temperature status and make decisions about when to seek cooling opportunities. Your behavioral thermoregulation strategies become increasingly important as environmental temperatures rise toward their daily peaks. As you approach the lake where the sauropod gathering is taking place, the landscape begins to show signs of the heavy traffic created by multiple large herbivores converging on this area. Deep trails worn by countless feet create highways through the surrounding vegetation, while areas of heavily browsed vegetation demonstrate the feeding pressure created by concentrations of giants. The lake itself comes into view gradually as you crest a low ridge, revealing a substantial body of water that stretches to the horizon in several directions. The shoreline is complex, with numerous bays, peninsulas, and islands that create diverse aquatic habitats. The water appears deep and clear, fed by multiple streams and supporting a rich aquatic ecosystem. The arrival at the sauropod gathering represents a significant social event, as multiple species and individuals interact in ways that are rare during normal daily activities. The gathering includes not only other Brachiosaurus individuals, but also Diplodocus, Camarasaurus, and several other sauropod species, creating a diverse community of giants engaged in various feeding and social behaviors. The scale of the gathering is impressive, with dozens of massive creatures spread across miles of shoreline and adjacent vegetation. Each species tends to aggregate in areas most suitable for their particular feeding strategies and social needs, creating distinct zones within the larger gathering. The overall effect is like a city of giants, each neighborhood occupied by different types of residents. Your integration into this temporary community requires careful navigation of social hierarchies and territorial boundaries. Each species and individual has preferred feeding areas and social positions that must be respected to maintain harmony within the group. Your size and species give you certain advantages in these negotiations, but success depends on demonstrating appropriate social awareness and cooperation. The approach to the gathering involves passing through a gauntlet of social assessments as various individuals evaluate your intentions and status. Visual displays, vocalizations, and subtle body language all play roles in this complex social process. Your responses must demonstrate both confidence and respect for the established social order within the gathering. The feeding opportunities at the gathering site are exceptional, with access to plant species and growth stages that are rare in other locations. The concentration of large herbivores has actually enhanced the local vegetation through their fertilization and seed dispersal activities, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of abundance that benefits all participants. The lake's edge supports particularly lush growth due to the reliable water supply and nutrient-rich soils. Massive stands of conifers ring the lake, their branches heavy with cones and fresh growth that represent premium food sources for creatures of your size. Between the trees, giant ferns create dense understories that support different feeding opportunities, while aquatic plants in the shallows provide nutrition for species adapted to semi-aquatic feeding. Your feeding within the multi-species herd provides opportunities to observe and learn from the techniques employed by other sauropod species. Each species has evolved slightly different feeding strategies optimized for their particular anatomical characteristics and preferred food sources. Diplodocus individuals use their extremely long necks and whip-like tails to access vegetation in ways that differ significantly from your own approach, while Camarasaurus specimens demonstrate feeding techniques adapted to their more robust skull structure and different tooth arrangements. The Diplodocus near you moves with remarkable grace despite its enormous length, using its neck like a flexible crane to sweep through large volumes of vegetation without moving its body. Their feeding creates distinctive browse patterns that differ markedly from your own more selective approach. Watching these different strategies provides insights that may prove useful in your own future feeding activities. The social dynamics within the gathering are complex and constantly evolving as individuals arrive, depart, and shift their positions within the group. Communication occurs through a combination of vocalizations, visual displays, and subtle body language that allows the maintenance of order despite the potential for conflicts between such massive creatures. The acoustic environment is rich with the deep rumblings of sauropod vocalizations, creating a symphony of giant voices that can be heard for many miles. Your participation in the social aspects of the gathering includes both receiving and providing information about distant areas of the landscape, water sources, food availability, and potential threats. This information exchange is crucial for the survival and well-being of all participants, creating a network of shared knowledge that benefits the entire sauropod community. The gathering serves as a kind of information hub where knowledge from across vast territories is pooled and shared. You learn from other individuals about seasonal changes in vegetation across distant areas, the locations of new water sources created by recent rains, and the movements of predator populations that might affect travel routes. In return, you share your own observations about conditions in the territories you've recently traversed, contributing to the collective knowledge base that enhances everyone's survival prospects. The afternoon heat reaches its peak while you're feeding within the gathering, creating thermal stress that affects all the participants. The group's response involves subtle shifts in positioning and activity levels designed to minimize heat accumulation while maintaining access to food and social opportunities. Your elevated feeding position actually provides some advantages in accessing cooler air currents above the main group, while your massive thermal mass helps buffer against rapid temperature changes. Many individuals begin moving toward the water's edge as the heat intensifies, taking advantage of the cooling effects of evaporation and the thermal buffering provided by the large body of water. The lake's temperature remains relatively stable compared to air temperatures, making it an effective heat sink for overheated giants. The sight of dozens of massive sauropods partially submerged in the lake creates one of the most iconic scenes of the Mesozoic era. Your own thermal management strategy involves a gradual movement toward a section of the lake where you can access both cooling water and continued feeding opportunities. The transition from purely terrestrial feeding to semi-aquatic activities represents a significant behavioral adaptation that allows you to remain active during the hottest parts of the day when other creatures seek shelter. As the heat becomes more intense, the gathering begins to show signs of reorganization as individuals seek more effective cooling opportunities. Some members move deeper into the water, while others seek the shade provided by particularly large trees or rock formations. The social structure adapts fluidly to these thermal pressures, with temporary alliances forming around shared cooling resources. The deeper water near the center of the lake provides access to aquatic vegetation that represents a different nutritional profile from terrestrial plants. Submerged conifers, water ferns, and primitive aquatic flowering plants offer variety in both taste and nutritional content. Your feeding technique adapts to these aquatic conditions, with your neck functioning like a living snorkel, to reach submerged vegetation while keeping your airways above water. The transition from the main gathering to the lakeside feeding area provides a more intimate social environment with fewer individuals, but more intensive interactions. The reduced crowding allows for more relaxed feeding and social behavior, while the proximity to water offers immediate cooling options when thermal stress becomes problematic. This smaller group dynamic allows for more detailed social interactions and stronger relationship formation. Your position at the water's edge allows you to alternate between terrestrial feeding and aquatic cooling activities as needed to maintain optimal body temperature. This flexibility is crucial during the hottest parts of the day, when your massive size could otherwise lead to dangerous overheating. The behavioral adaptations that allow this thermal management represent millions of years of evolutionary refinement. The aquatic environment provides access to different types of social interactions than are possible on land. The buoyancy provided by water allows for more playful behaviors, including gentle nudging and positioning games that would be too energetically expensive or potentially dangerous on land. These aquatic social activities strengthen bonds between individuals, and may play important roles in mate selection and herd cohesion. The afternoon social period includes interactions with juveniles of various sauropod species, providing insights into the developmental processes that transform small hatchlings into massive adults like yourself. These younger individuals exhibit many of the same behaviors as adults, but at scales that seem almost delicate compared to your own gigantic proportions. Their energy levels are noticeably higher, and they engage in more active social play that gradually diminishes as they mature. The juveniles demonstrate remarkable fearlessness around the massive adults, apparently understanding that their own species poses no threat to them. This confidence allows them to learn feeding techniques and social behaviors through close observation and imitation. Your patient tolerance of their sometimes clumsy attempts to mimic adult behaviors contributes to their learning and development. Some of the younger individuals attempt to feed alongside you, their smaller necks requiring them to position themselves carefully to access the same vegetation you're consuming. These feeding partnerships provide learning opportunities for the juveniles, while creating interesting challenges in coordination and spatial awareness for all participants. The interaction between different age classes within the gathering creates a complex social dynamic that serves important functions in maintaining cultural knowledge and behavioral traditions within sauropod populations. Older individuals serve as repositories of knowledge about feeding techniques, seasonal patterns, and environmental conditions, while younger members contribute energy and innovation to group activities. Your interactions with juveniles include both protective behaviors and educational demonstrations, as adult sauropods play important roles in teaching younger individuals about feeding techniques, social protocols, and environmental awareness. Your patient demonstrations of proper feeding techniques are observed closely by several younger individuals who attempt to replicate your movements and strategies. The presence of juveniles also adds an element of vigilance to the gathering, as adults monitor for potential threats that might target the more vulnerable younger members. This protective awareness creates an additional layer of social responsibility that influences movement patterns and group organization throughout the day. The late afternoon brings changes in lighting and atmospheric conditions that create some of the most beautiful moments of the Jurassic day. The sun's lower angle creates dramatic lighting effects through the forest canopy and across the lake's surface, while atmospheric moisture begins to condense into the early stages of evening mist. These conditions provide ideal photosynthetic conditions for many plant species, making this an optimal time for final feeding activities. The changing light conditions also trigger behavioral changes in many species, as diurnal creatures begin preparing for the night, while nocturnal species start becoming active. This transition period creates unique opportunities for observing species that are normally active at different times, adding to the richness of the social and ecological environment. Your evening feeding focuses on species and plant parts that are most nutritious during late-day conditions, when photosynthetic products have accumulated to their peak concentrations. Your sophisticated understanding of plant biology allows you to optimize your nutrition by timing your consumption of different species to coincide with their peak nutritional value. The aquatic plants in the lake shallows are particularly rich in nutrients during late afternoon, as a full day of photosynthesis has loaded them with carbohydrates and other energy compounds. Your feeding on these plants requires careful coordination between breathing and feeding, as much of the vegetation is partially or fully submerged. The gradual cooling that accompanies the approaching evening brings relief from the thermal stress of the afternoon and allows for more energetic activities. Your movements become slightly more animated as your body temperature drops toward optimal levels, and you take advantage of this increased comfort to engage in more complex social behaviors. The temperature reduction also affects the behavior of other species in the gathering, with many individuals becoming more active as the thermal stress of midday diminishes. This creates a burst of social activity as creatures take advantage of the improved conditions to engage in behaviors that were suppressed during the hottest parts of the day. The evening social period includes participation in the long-distance communication network that connects sauropod groups across vast areas of the landscape. Your deep, resonant calls carry for miles through the cooling air, contributing to a chorus of giant voices that serves both social and navigational purposes as darkness approaches. These vocalizations become more frequent and complex as evening approaches, with various individuals announcing their positions, intentions, and social status to distant groups. The acoustic environment becomes rich with overlapping calls that create a complex soundscape extending far beyond the immediate gathering area. Your own contributions to this vocal chorus include both responses to calls from other individuals and original communications that announce your presence and current activities. The sophistication of these vocalizations demonstrates the complex social intelligence that has evolved among creatures of your size and longevity. The communications network serves practical functions beyond simple social interaction, including coordination of movement patterns, sharing of information about environmental conditions, and maintenance of contact between separated group members. This acoustic infrastructure is essential for the coordination of activities across the vast territories required to support populations of giants. As evening deepens, the gathering begins to show signs of dispersal as various individuals and groups prepare for the night. Some choose to remain near the lake for the night, while others begin journeys toward preferred resting areas in different parts of the territory. These decisions are influenced by factors including social relationships, thermal considerations, and individual preferences for sleeping conditions. Your own preparation for the night involves careful consideration of multiple factors, including security, comfort, and positioning for the following day's activities. The choice of resting location becomes increasingly important as your massive size makes you vulnerable to certain types of environmental hazards, while also providing protection against others. The location you eventually choose is a slight elevation near the lakeshore that offers good drainage, while maintaining access to both terrestrial vegetation and aquatic cooling opportunities. The position also provides excellent visibility across the surrounding landscape, allowing you to monitor conditions during the night and early morning hours. The elevated position offers protection from potential flooding, while keeping you close enough to the water to access cooling opportunities if needed during the night. The gentle slope ensures good drainage of any rainwater while providing a stable foundation for your massive form during the extended rest period. Your settling process is a slow, deliberate sequence of movements designed to position your massive form for optimal comfort and security during the rest period. Your legs fold beneath your body in a controlled manner that distributes your weight evenly while maintaining your ability to rise quickly if necessary. Your long neck curves around to allow your head to rest near your body, reducing vulnerability while maintaining awareness of your surroundings. The physical process of lying down requires careful coordination of all your major muscle groups to avoid injury or loss of balance. Your massive weight must be lowered gradually and controlled throughout the entire sequence, making this one of the most technically demanding activities you perform. The ground trembles slightly under your enormous mass as you settle into your resting position. Your positioning also takes into account the locations of other resting sauropods to ensure adequate space and avoid potential conflicts during the night. The social dynamics continue even during rest periods, with subtle negotiations about personal space and positioning preferences occurring through gentle vocalizations and careful spatial awareness. As darkness begins to fall across the Jurassic landscape, the acoustic environment shifts from the sounds of diurnal creatures to those of nocturnal species. The transition is gradual but distinct, with different calls, movement patterns, and activity levels creating a new soundscape that will accompany your rest period. The evening chorus includes the calls of night-active pterosaurs, the movements of nocturnal mammals, and the continued long-distance communications of other sauropods settling into their own rest periods. This acoustic environment provides important information about conditions across your territory while creating a soothing background for relaxation. Your massive cardiovascular system begins to slow toward its resting rhythm, though it never truly stops the constant circulation required to maintain your enormous body. Your breathing deepens and becomes more regular, creating gentle sounds that harmonize with the distant calls of other resting sauropods and the subtle night sounds of the surrounding ecosystem. The night sky of the Jurassic period is brilliant with stars undimmed by any artificial illumination, creating a celestial display that serves as a backdrop for your rest. The moon, closer to Earth than in modern times, appears larger and brighter, casting gentle illumination across the landscape and creating subtle patterns of light and shadow that shift throughout the night. Your rest is not the deep, unconscious sleep of smaller animals, but rather a state of relaxed awareness that allows your body to recover while maintaining vigilance for potential threats or opportunities. Your enhanced senses continue to monitor the environment, processing the constant stream of information that characterizes life in this complex ecosystem. The gentle sounds of water lapping against the shoreline create a soothing rhythm that helps ease your massive form into deeper relaxation. This natural lullaby is supplemented by the distant calls of night-active pterosaurs and the subtle movements of nocturnal creatures going about their business in the darkness. Your digestive system continues its work throughout the night, processing the enormous quantities of vegetation consumed during the day and extracting the nutrients needed to fuel your incredible metabolism. The gentle internal sounds of this ongoing process become part of the peaceful acoustic environment that surrounds your resting form. The massive thermal mass of your body retains heat efficiently throughout the night, creating a warm microenvironment that gradually cools toward optimal resting temperatures. This thermal regulation continues automatically, allowing your conscious mind to relax while your body maintains the precise temperature control required for optimal function. As the night deepens, you enter into the light sleep that represents the deepest rest available to a creature of your size and vulnerability. Your dreams, such as they are, consist of gentle replays of the day's experiences mixed with deeper genetic memories of ancient forests and primordial landscapes that stretch back through countless generations of your evolutionary heritage. The night sounds gradually become familiar and expected, allowing deeper relaxation as your nervous system learns to distinguish between normal nocturnal activity and sounds that might indicate potential threats. The acoustic landscape becomes a security blanket that provides constant information about conditions in your immediate area. Your breathing continues in the slow, steady rhythm that characterizes resting sauropods, each breath moving enormous volumes of air through your massive respiratory system. The sound becomes part of the natural symphony of the night, blending with wind through trees, water against stones, and the distant calls of creatures across the darkened landscape. The cool night air gradually lowers your body temperature toward optimal resting levels, allowing your massive metabolic systems to operate more efficiently and reducing any thermal stress that accumulated during the warmer parts of the day. This cooling process creates gentle air currents around your resting form that contribute to your comfort and well-being. The night passes peacefully, with your massive presence serving as a stabilizing influence on the local ecosystem. Smaller creatures find security in your proximity, knowing that most predators will avoid areas occupied by giants like yourself. This protective effect extends throughout your immediate area, creating a zone of relative safety that benefits many other species. Throughout the night, your internal biological rhythms continue their ancient patterns, coordinating the countless physiological processes that maintain your enormous body. These rhythms, synchronized with the cycles of day and night, represent millions of years of evolutionary refinement that allows creatures of your size to function effectively in the terrestrial environment. The gentle movements of your massive chest as you breathe create subtle vibrations that travel through the ground, adding to the network of seismic communications that connects resting sauropods across the landscape. Even in sleep, you remain part of the vast social network that spans your territorial range. As the deepest part of the night passes, your rest enters its most restorative phase, with various physiological repair processes working to maintain your enormous body in optimal condition. These maintenance functions operate automatically, allowing conscious rest while ensuring that your massive systems continue to function properly. The night sky slowly wheels overhead, with familiar constellations marking the passage of time in patterns that have guided creatures for hundreds of millions of years. These celestial markers provide a sense of continuity and stability that connects your existence to the vast cosmic cycles that govern all life on Earth. Your dreams become more vivid during the deeper phases of rest, filled with images of vast forests, endless horizons, and the companionship of others of your kind. These dreams may represent more than simple replays of daily experience, possibly accessing genetic memories that preserve the experiences of countless ancestors in your evolutionary lineage. The thermal environment around your resting form stabilizes as the night air temperature reaches its minimum, creating optimal conditions for the deep physiological rest that your massive body requires. The temperature differential between your body and the environment reaches its peak efficiency for heat dissipation and metabolic regulation. The night sounds gradually shift as different nocturnal species become active at various times, creating a changing but always present acoustic environment that provides continuous information about conditions in your territory. Your sleeping mind processes these sounds automatically, maintaining awareness while allowing conscious rest. As dawn approaches, subtle changes in light and atmospheric pressure begin to signal the arrival of a new day. Your internal biological rhythms, synchronized with these ancient environmental cues, begin the gradual process of preparing your massive form for another day of activity in the magnificent world of the late Jurassic period. The first hints of light begin to appear on the eastern horizon, creating subtle changes in the quality of darkness that your sensitive nervous system detects even during rest. These early signals begin the cascade of physiological changes that will gradually restore you to full wakefulness and activity. The transition from night to day is gradual and peaceful, with the first hints of light revealing the familiar landscape of forest, lake, and distant mountains that define your territory. The sight of this prehistoric paradise, bathed in the gentle light of dawn, creates a sense of contentment and belonging that makes your gigantic existence feel perfectly natural and right. Your awakening is a slow, deliberate process that allows your massive circulatory and nervous systems to gradually transition from rest to activity. Each movement is carefully controlled to avoid strain on your enormous body, while your senses slowly extend their range to gather information about the conditions and opportunities that await in the new day. The morning mist rising from the warm water creates ethereal patterns of light and shadow across the landscape, transforming familiar scenes into something magical and otherworldly. This atmospheric beauty is one of the many rewards of your elevated perspective, offering views and experiences that are available to no other terrestrial creature. The sounds of the awakening ecosystem begin to filter through the morning air. The calls of early pterosaurs, the movement of small mammals returning from nocturnal activities, and the distant sounds of other dinosaurs beginning their own daily routines. These familiar sounds create a sense of continuity and belonging that connects you to the eternal rhythms of natural life. As full consciousness returns to your massive form, you feel the deep satisfaction that comes from successful survival in one of Earth's most magnificent ecosystems. Your existence as a Brachiosaurus represents the pinnacle of herbivorous evolution, a perfect adaptation to a world of giants where peaceful coexistence and gentle strength define the rhythm of life. Your massive heart resumes its full activity rhythm, pumping the lifeblood that sustains your incredible form through another day of peaceful existence in this ancient paradise. Each heartbeat resonates through your body like a gentle drum, marking time in a world where giants walk softly through forests of living skyscrapers under skies filled with flying reptiles. The gentle morning breeze carries the sense of flowering plants and fresh growth, promising another day of abundant feeding opportunities and social interactions with your fellow giants. Your elevated position allows you to sample these airborne messages, gathering information about conditions across your vast territory and planning the activities that will fill your day. The lake beside you reflects the growing light of dawn, its surface disturbed only by the gentle movements of aquatic creatures beginning their own daily activities. The sight of this pristine water source, surrounded by lush vegetation and teeming with life, reinforces your sense of living in a perfect world designed for creatures of your magnificent proportions. Other sauropods in the area begin showing signs of awakening, their massive forms slowly stirring to life as the new day begins. The sight of these fellow giants preparing for another day of peaceful existence creates a profound sense of community and belonging that transcends the simple biological drive for survival. As consciousness fully returns to your magnificent form, you carry with you the profound peace that comes from living in perfect harmony with your environment. You are exactly what you were meant to be, a gentle giant in a world built for giants, moving through each day with the serene confidence that comes from knowing your place in the grand design of nature. The soft morning light filters through the ancient canopy, casting dancing patterns across your massive form as you prepare for another day in this prehistoric paradise. The air is sweet with the scent of growing things, the water clear and pure, and the sky vast and blue above the towering trees that have sheltered your kind for millions of years. Your elevated perspective allows you to see across vast distances to where other herds of giants move slowly through distant landscapes, their lives intertwined with yours in the great web of existence that defines this ancient world. You are part of something magnificent and eternal, a link in the chain of life that stretches back to the very beginning of terrestrial evolution. The gentle sounds of morning activity in the lake and surrounding forest create a symphony of life that speaks to the incredible diversity and abundance of this Jurassic ecosystem. Every sound, every scent, every sight confirms that you are living in one of the most successful and beautiful periods in Earth's history. As you prepare to rise and begin another day of gentle feeding, social interaction, and peaceful exploration of your magnificent world, you carry with you the deep contentment that comes from perfect adaptation to a perfect environment. You are exactly where you belong, exactly what you were meant to be, in exactly the right time and place in the vast story of life on Earth. The morning light grows stronger, warming your massive hide and energizing your enormous body for another day of life, as one of the most magnificent creatures ever to walk the Earth. Every breath brings the sweet air of an untouched paradise. Every heartbeat marks another moment of perfect existence, and every movement carries you deeper into the timeless rhythm of life in this ancient world where giants reign supreme.